Hello and welcome to the Tim Robinson podcast. With me, your host, Tim Robinson. My background is in coaching males to build bodies that they can be happy with, and this podcast mirrors my never-ending quest to optimize human happiness, health, and performance. Each week, we'll get a chance to speak to other experts in the field of health to consolidate our ideas and create a show full of insights to help you go to the next level. On this episode of the podcast, I'm talking to Davide Alfonsi, who is an online nutrition coach and personal trainer. Now, here's a twist. Me and Davide used to live together back in 2016, which is around 5 years ago, and what a time it was. Many beautiful memories. So in this podcast, basically we start off by just going back in time and remembering the fun times that we had, but also genuinely taking a look back and remembering some of our not so healthy habits. Of myself, for example, we had a bit of a laugh about when I used to drink alcohol as a stress management tool and binge eating with regarding chocolate, etc. We basically just shared, if you like, some old war stories, and then we kind of got down into the nitty gritty and really spoke about different components that affect your ability to lose body fat. Some things that aren't really spoken about, because you know what, the fitness industry makes a lot about caloric deficits, but what it doesn't talk about so much is the importance of sleep and stress management. And we really deep dive into that, like super deep dive, like at points, it was really opening my mind. So yeah, I come away with some real big takeaways with this podcast, and yeah, it's a super deep one. So if you want that mind to get opened and rethink diet and exercise beyond just what you eat and how you move, but also most importantly how you live, including sleep and pardon me. So yeah, it's a really this one's a super deep podcast. So yeah, get strapped in and hope you enjoy it. All right, so Davide, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely, my pleasure, man. As we go back to 2015, which is 6 years.
2015, man. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, over half a decade, and basically, yeah, I'm gonna give you the official intro, but then I'll give you the side intro first of all. So the side intro being, we used to live together, so not only do we know about each other professionally, but we also know about each other intimately. Cooking habits.
Man, I changed those. What about you?
Yeah, so not eating salmon and chicken thighs and nothing else.
No, exactly. The plain diet.
The plain diet, yeah, and of course you've seen me back in the day when I would live really religiously following my diet plan, but then all of a sudden you come home and find me drinking wine on the balcony and
or six. No, that was the Fosters. 6 cans of Fosters. That was like the treat.
Yeah. I've been fairly open about I think the challenges that many of us have with alcohol or various substances, but
various substances, yes.
Various substances. But 6 years ago, I was more juvenile in my understanding of how to handle those things. Yeah.
Like six days off, 1 day on, or something like that.
The standard British way. Yeah, I think at that period of time in my life, actually, I didn't. It wasn't so much a reward mechanism where I drink. It was a stress management tool.
It was a stress management tool. Yeah.
Yeah.
The reward was the candies or the Hershey's bar, or I was the same.
So that's so basically, yeah, I used to reward myself with obscene amounts of chocolate occasionally.
Yes, a cheap one.
And you were quite shocked one time when you came home and I had 3 Hershey's bars and I was trying to. The white chocolate one, do you remember?
Yeah. White chocolate. No, there was not even white chocolate. It's like an Oreo cookie thing, I think. Yeah.
They were the days. Yeah.
There were definitely some serious binging habits in that house when we were both together, because there was just too much diet. and a 24-hour shop downstairs, so it was actually too easy to just get ahead of the school.
It's true.
For all the listeners, like Tim managed to. There was a shop run by Pakistani and Indian people downstairs, and he managed to get one of those guys to become his client. Just out of buying chocolate bars. By the way.
Yeah, I was super proud of that. Yeah. After buying flapjacks and chocolate bars downstairs.
Exactly. And the guy must have seen it, and I was like, you can eat chocolate bars and look like that, like fucking hell. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, man, they were the days, and of course we did that photo shoot together as well.
Oh yeah, that was serious dieting, and then sushi afterwards.
Oh yeah.
So sushi, like, and this is another gem. We prepared for this photo shoot with this like photographer, and like we just got pretty lean, like pretty lean and pretty hungry. So we went to all you can eat sushi, and like you see him like he starts like eating all this stuff, and then he looks at me and he's got like tears in his eyes, and he's like, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a bit emotional. Isn't it? I remember that.
I forgot about that, but yeah,
such a high.
It was an emotional experience because I don't think I'd eaten carbs for like 2.5 weeks or hardly anything. Yeah, those were the days. We were reflectively, we were dieting extremely hard.
Yeah.
Probably
cardio. I was doing so much cardio. He was never on cardio. I was just up and down the stairs in the morning, non-stop.
Yeah, I did loads of cardio at the end. I did quite a bit. I started doing stairs and
something, and prowlers and stuff. Yeah, you were on the prowler.
Yeah, although we didn't actually live together at that point, so you wouldn't.
No, it's true. That's true. Yeah, I wouldn't know. That's true. You didn't know that I was going up and down the stairs.
Yeah, those famous stairs. Yeah, man. Okay, so we used to
good times.
Back in 2015. So we used to live together. We used to diet really, really hard, and perhaps not in a way that you'd recommend to your clients these days.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
It was fun at the time.
You will be very surprised of what I recommend today to people. I will tell you some stuff later on, and like it's like some pretty weird shit I'm recommending to people right now, even worse than the chicken and salmon. But they do follow though.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you get their investment and they get results, which is
yeah, in unexpected ways.
The primary thing. All right, so we used to live together. We've done photo shoots together. Okay, but I'll give you the actual. Now I'll give you the actual.
Who am I?
Intro, the mic drop intro. So basically, from my understanding of it, like professionally, the reason you got into fitness was because, like many of us, you had a few things to overcome, and you're basically you moved over here from Italy and ended up being a go-go dancer, right? Which is
which is yay.
Yeah, and so you're a go-go dancer in nightclubs, like dancing in cages and stuff.
Yeah, dancing in cages, dancing with like dressed a woman at times, like cool moments. Finish, then I'm gonna just go give my take.
So basically, you're a go-go dancer, and but that kind of party lifestyle caught up to you a little bit. Specifically, taking substances like well, correct me if I'm wrong here, but because I might get them wrong. I can't remember. But you were taking some party drugs, let's say it like that. And one time it caught up to you, and actually basically ended up that you woke up in a hospital bed and you had some operation down here.
No, well, it wasn't necessarily like this. I think it was let's just say, so it was a party. It was some sort of fetish party actually, and then so it was kind of normal to just walk around naked in this house, and it was a mix of 6 or 7 things altogether, and that was after a shift at the nightclub as well. So I was pretty tired, and I just go to the toilet and pretty much like just I shit 2 liters of blood or something like that, and I just faint, and they literally break the door because it was locked and I was laying on the floor, and they find me there. So I just wake up with my friend slapping me on the face, and I'm like naked in a bathtub, and it's all red, full of my own blood. If you ever seen the TV series Dexter, well, it looks like that. And they didn't even want to call an ambulance because clearly there was a lot of non-legal things happening in there. But eventually they called it, and they took me to the hospital. They gave me blood, and then they booked me for a surgery. It was not emergency surgery. It was just that we had to cut something from my intestine that was very, very inflamed, and clearly everything I've done and taken inflamed the whole thing to get it as big as an orange. It was just a piece of my intestine, right? So that was after 1 year of going for it in London. That is very easy if you know the wrong people. It is very easy if you know the wrong people. If you work in the nightlife, it's even easier because then like money doesn't become a problem because everything is free, right? That is maybe is one thing that saves a lot of people from going out every single day and just smashing every single day, because of course requires a financial investment, not if you know the wrong people. So that was me. And after 1 year, I just kind of had to take a good look in the mirror and just figure out, well, this where I want to go in life, because it's not going to last very long, or shall we make some changes? And it actually happened that I had both an Italian personal training qualification, and I took one in England the year before, because probably in the back of my head, I was like, well, if this thing doesn't work, probably I've been training my whole life, and I've been basically like also doing sort of personal training on the side by teaching the people that were working at the nightclub with me about like squats and bench presses and stuff. So I had this qualification, and then I just had to recover from surgery that was kind of not easy because it's like a cesarean. I have like this big scar, and I just doing like a flight of stairs was like. So I remember just going for this interview. And, but by the way, the team and me were actually very similar because we were both chubby as kids, like very, very big. And then for probably for like a shagging reason, we just decided to drop some weight just to be a bit more appealing to the opposite sex. Just I took the highway instead of taking the stairs, and I went from fat to go-go dancer at 16-year-old. So I was very hooked on like looking a certain way. Just like I never thought I would do for living something that help people look a certain way, but looking a certain way could be my job, right? So it was even more like to prove everyone wrong. I was like, well, they're giving me money because the way I look, so I'm not a fat kid anymore, right? So that's a proof, that's a paycheck. Like you can't make fun of me anymore. That's plus. So that was probably my mental reasoning. I wanted to prove all my friends that mocked me that like like I just look good, period, because people are paying me for that. So it was quite selfish on one side, but quite fun as well. I think. And then I just revisited the thing, and I'm like, there's nothing so amazing of being paid for looking good. It's actually quite a sad place to be in, to be honest, because then you keep comparing yourself to others. And I said, like, well, I can actually get a lot of people from I'm not feeling good to I'm feeling good, and that's very rewarding instead, because you change someone's life instead of just chasing like this, looking like a statue thing, etc. So that's the way it went. We started Virgin Active like team as well, and then together he was a bit quicker than me because I'm more like I like to plan things and waiting for the right time. He's more like, fuck it, let's do it. And he does it tomorrow, or today even, not even. So we're really looking at the consequences. But we both became self-employed together. We started our business together. So it's quite of a similar journey. Probably it morphed quite a bit because I was training people near the city of London. He was training people in the city of London. So all clearly like busy man, busy executives, just people that work very hard. And then with coronavirus, the situation changed, right? So before coronavirus, I wrote this book called Busy at Fit, that it was pretty much all I knew about training people that they want to have a good body and a career, right? Or have a good body and a career and kids at the same time, right? It is very common in London because the pace is high. The pace is high. There's a lot of work. You carry work at home, and there's a lot of high achievers around you. So you're just dragged into wanting more and stuff like this. That's also probably why so many people burn out, and then they just discover a bit more of a Zen way of life or minimalistic way of life, because you need to just push it on one side to see the importance of the other ones. But then, this book that I wrote, Busy at Fit, I launched on Kickstarter, is still there on Kickstarter. And if anyone wants to read it, I'll just give it to them for free. Just you can put my email in the thing, that is Davide at ki-force, that is this.com. It was all about time effective strategies to make fitness part of your life, meaning there was a lot about bringing food to you to the office, how to train when you are traveling, how to do some sort of movement when you have commuting. So those are things that they don't exist anymore today, and they won't exist for another 12 months, isn't it? Because people are not really going to the office. So I had to reshape quite a bit. That's why I didn't publish the book, because I'm like, during COVID, people don't need this book. People, they need something else. People, they need Busy at Fit at home. That's actually what they need. That is like, how do I actually, and that's a much more, uh, as much as it's always about a little bit about willpower and having the right plan. When you are at home, the nutritional strategies, the training strategies, they need to be different, because before you could use the power of habit. That is, I need to go every day to work. Yeah, you can make movement your commute. You can cycle, you can walk, you can get down a few stops and just get to work and stuff. Now you don't have that, and it's very hard to create a new habit that is not tied to something that happens already. That's actually much harder. So it's much harder for people to say, you just can't go out for a walk 45 minutes. Because then, they go like, yeah, I'll do it sometimes, and then it's never that time when they had to commute. So you need to actually do smart things, like getting people to find local grocery shops that are slightly far away, and booking days to just go for actually a walk back and there. Instead of having like the deliver grocery, you use the fact of having to walk to actually get a walk down. This is people that work 12 hours a day at the computer, like I have like this is a funny business, because I do everything online. Before, me and you, Tim, we were at the gym, and the people that would come to us were people that generally have like 1 hour to train with us and another extra hour to go around. Now the same people now working from home, they supposed to have more time, but I'm telling you, they don't. They actually have less time, because everything moves a bit slower, since there's no more office environment and you can gather information. Every information requires a meeting. So they end up working 10, 12 hours, when before they were working 8, 9 hours from home. So they have less time, even without having to commute. And that's bogus, but that's the reality. And when people tell me I don't have time, I actually have a look at their diary, because right now my clients, they send me the Google Calendar every fucking week. I want to see the time in different color coding, where they book time for themselves. That is, it could be the time to decompress if there's a stress and adrenal issue. It could be time to train if they're actually healthy and they're just lazy. Or it could be just time to actually plan their next week, so the things fall into place. So you see, I suppose when you go from just personal training, that is, what's the best exercise to get you the best physique, into weight loss coaching and dieting, it's a very different system. It's a very different industry, because the exercise that people do matters 1%, right? How to make that happen, and what food and how to make the food happen, matters 99%. So some exercise will get people to lose weight, almost any. If there's some problems like like lower back pain, neck, then that 1% needs to be specific. Otherwise, they make things worse. But the main thing is like, how do you do healthy choices on autopilot? Because if you need to actually put some willpower in every healthy choice you make forever, it's just not going to last. So how do you create habits that are not there? So how do you replace something that is healthy with something unhealthy? And there's a whole science behind it. You can stop me anytime, because I can just go on and on. But like, if you look at the science, like they did a study where they picked different groups of people, and they gave first group 3 new habits for 7 days. Second groups, they gave 2 new habits, and first group they gave 1 habit. Now the first group, 95% kept that habit every day, 7 days a week. So fine. The group that had 2 habits, 35% managed to do it 7 days a week. The other ones fucked up. And the 3 habits was 5%. So you see, like, someone that comes from the normal world, right? Family, normal job, and it's not from the fitness world. A diet and an exercise plan, it's maybe 20, 25 habits in once, because there's buying the food, cooking it. Maybe they don't cook. Cooking it in a way that they like. So also finding the right mix, eating it at precise time. And I'll tell you, most people, they don't eat at precise times. They just eat when they have time. Or when they don't have time, they either don't eat and they make bad choices, or they snack on shit. So those are venomous habits that the funny thing is that then those people they might have like a takeaway, or they might have a piece of like a chocolate or some caramel nuts, whatever. And while they're eating it, they don't want to eat it. That's the funniest thing. Like they don't want, like, I didn't want to eat it, but I didn't have anything. I was hungry. Right. So that's the problem. Like you don't have a system that makes impossible for you to have that thing when you're just hungry, because you're just not going to be hungry, because you didn't skip the previous meal, right? When for me and us, that we come more from like a sort of fitness bodybuilding style that is more about, well, we already know how to meal prep, how to like no. So it's more about like what quantities are we putting here, what kind of macro ratio, how do we rotate the meals according to training. So that's more optimizing habits that are already in place, and to take someone from zero to optimizing habits, I find that it takes not much more than 4 weeks. Interestingly enough, right? So like if you have like a diet that is an optimal diet, instead of giving that diet, you help people build it over 4 weeks time. So I really like, and this is not in a book, this is something I've been doing for the past 12 months. But actually just as a bracket, the people that I usually work with, we can find three main categories. So one category is a really overweight man, right? So we are talking type 2 diabetes, higher cholesterol, high blood pressure, serious problem. Maybe, I'm not sure in stones what it is, but it's probably 20 stones, like 120, 130 kilograms, so big guys, right? So here is more like, okay, these people, they just need to start eating real food. They need to make time for walking, just walking, right? And then when that's a thing, and then we need to just use a lot of different supplements to top up this imbalances that they created, right? So they to just fix insulin resistance, to fix inflammation, so that the cholesterol can go down, and generally to lower carbohydrates quite drastically. Then the other category is like, I'll say women that are 30 to 55, and generally are moms. Generally are moms. There are 1, 2 kids, not super post-pregnancy. That's my wife for that she's expert. But maybe after 1 year or 2 years of pregnancy. And they generally were quite slim. Then they gave birth and the body changed and they balloon up for one thing for another. So there again, that's another issue, because it's like, technically they have time, or they have medium time. The problem is that the children is around all the time, so it's not real time for themselves. So there's an issue with stress. There's a big issue with insulin resistance, because pregnancy makes you insulin resistant. And that's funny, right? Because you're pregnant. Insulin resistance, it means that you pump a lot of insulin, and insulin induces growth. So it's good when you're pregnant to be insulin resistant, because you pump more and the fetus grows. The problem is if you stop breastfeeding too early, breastfeeding reduces insulin resistance. If you go on formula straight away, you have a skinny woman that now it's not so skinny because post-pregnancy and it's insulin resistance. A normal healthy diet will make the woman really fat really quickly, right? They can't take carbs. So if you are a woman and you stop breastfeeding, forget about bananas, oats, cereals, and all this stuff. It's going to make you very fat. You need to reverse insulin sensitivity with the low carb diet for 2-3 months, and then you can go into that. And this is advice that clearly you don't get from your GP for sure, right? And the postnatal depression is a real thing, because before they had all the oxytocin from the baby, so they were just happy. Then after the baby, you don't have oxytocin anymore. You don't sleep. You probably don't have sex, and you just don't have time to eat food that you like. So you snack on shit that makes you fat. So you get to a point where you don't feel a woman anymore. You just feel like this sort of robo nanny thing, and you can't look at yourself in the mirror. And then you're like, I don't know what to do. They come to me and they're like, I'll do anything you say. And that's good because then we can actually reverse that really quickly. So that's like sometimes they wait 10 years, right, after the kids to do that. They just stay balloon for 10 years and they go to a point where they're like, I just can't anymore. So that's a very common trend in women. And then I have dudes, right, that used to go to the gym, and with lockdown they just stopped and they just grew a belly. And here that's more our thing, right? Just um, getting a very good training plan, making sure they actually do it, making sure there's no pizza every Sunday, right? And then they get quite independent. But I find the weight loss thing for people that I got to a point that were quite sick, or just general, like women, they got to a point where, like, just they lost their confidence completely. A bit more challenging, and also like a bit more human, because I need to step from my thing that, like, I always find time for training, and go into a universe where it's like these people are actually mentally suffering, and they just don't know what to do. They don't know that it's easier than what they think, right? And those are people that have been sometimes, this is another type of women, it's mainly women actually, that they've been on a diet their whole life, and their metabolism is a total wreck, and you can't keep eating less and trying your old diet, the one that you worked when you were 19-year-old and you're 36 now. It's not going to work. You actually need to do something that is drastically different from what you've done before. And this is when I get most successes with intermittent fasting. Right. Actually, I can ask you, what are your thoughts on intermittent fasting? Did you try it? Tell me.
Yeah, I tried it when did I try it? 2013, I believe.
So
So
before we met.
yeah, before we met. Maybe I tried it one other time as well. And I've probably done it accidentally all the time with irregular habits.
Yeah.
The intermittent fasting is basically where you have a window of time that you allocate to eating, whether that's 4 hours or 8 hours of the day, and the rest of the time you go without eating.
Yeah.
So a lot of, you know what, actually, I've seen people get a lot of results with it. And I think the blanket assumption is to go, well, like all diets, it's easier to create a caloric deficit, and it's easier to an extent. I mean, a lot of people gain body fat in Ramadan and gain weight, so there's proof that doesn't actually always work.
Yeah, exactly. No, for sure. But it depends what you eat, right? Pita and yogurt to break the fast, isn't it?
Yeah, you can easily develop a dysfunctional eating habit, dysfunctional eating pattern in that time if you just smash loads of food. But in conjunction with a caloric deficit, it certainly seems to work quite well. This is not from my personal experience because I haven't got that much personal experience with it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people say that it's easier to manage cravings, etc., because you just know in your head you're not eating in this time.
Yeah. I guess that's one thing. I mean, the way I use it with people is actually, the principle is very simple. If someone got, let's say, fat, but right, he stored at least 10 or 15% extra body fat, all the way to 25% extra body fat, clearly there's a problem with their insulin, right? There's no, now whether that was caused from because it's not just eating chocolate that gets you insulin resistant, right? It's always a mix of stress and sleep deprivation, and inflammation. So you have a few things that geeked out this quite a lot, that cause insulin resistance. For sure, like a repetitive burst of insulin. That means, like, if I'm having 5 meals a day and it's like an innocent smoothie, soya caramel latte, and then a sandwich, and then like a banana. Tell me.
Yeah. Okay, so for the listeners,
Yeah.
For someone that doesn't know, someone doesn't have a clue, we
Yeah.
speak a lot about insulin, but what would you just break down? So insulin.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so insulin is this hormone, right? It's produced by the pancreas, so it's behind the liver. You can see this is our blood sugar level. So imagine like a wave, right? This is stable, it's in the middle. This one is low. So when the blood sugar goes down like this, you start to feel hungry, first of all, then tired and dizzy sometimes when it's like this, right? And like, just obviously the higher. So if you are middle and a bit high here, there's more energy going on, because technically those glucose can go into muscle and tissues, into the cells, and get used as a source of energy through a process called oxidation, right? So when this blood sugar goes beyond here, all of a sudden it becomes toxic for us. So too much sugar in the blood is toxic and kill you. So we have this fantastic hormone called insulin that comes from the pancreas, that is task is to get this blood sugar down and push it somewhere, right? So if we had, for example, no breakfast and we were walking a little bit, then the reserve of sugar in our muscles and in our liver, this is how we store sugar, they slowly get depleted. So insulin will just, let's say we eat a banana, we're going to use some of this sugar from the banana to generate energy. So it's going to go into cell, then the extra is going to be stored in our liver first, in our muscle second. So that's a natural process. Now the issue is when all our stores, right, so muscles and liver are full, and it doesn't take that much, by the way, if you're someone that doesn't move, and we eat a large plate of pasta with a beer, so that's a lot of carbs, and our blood sugar is going to go from here to quite a lot. Now insulin is going to push this in our reserve. If reserves are full, it pushes into fat and it stores it. That's why eating carbs consistently, especially carbs that raise this sugar quickly, lead to fat gain. If someone trains a lot, carbs consistently also leads to muscle gain, because insulin increase growth, everything, right? It's a growth hormone. Now, the issue is when these happens too often, you first have something called dysglycemia. That means the blood sugar is not stable anymore. It's high and low and high and low. And this causes a lot of things in your brain because there's supply of energy and not. So first you're really sharp, then you're really tired, and then you've got clogged minds and you just don't really know, and you reach for more sugar. Second, it starts to create a process called inflammation. That is basically when sugar gets consumed, and this is complicated, but I'll try to make it simple. Sugar gets consumed, it requires electrons and oxygen, right? So this process causes some waste products, and the body, the immune system, needs to get rid of this oxidative stress, it's called. So the immune response is hyped, and it causes this sort of like symptoms that could be achiness, it could be headache, right? Migraines, or it could be foggy mind, this sort of bloating feeling. There's different immune cells that they go in different parts. So sometimes you got inflammation in the stomach, sometimes you got inflammation in the brain, sometimes you got inflammation in the joint. All these processes are very often caused by having too many of these up and down in your blood sugar. Now, when there is too much insulin to fix this up and down in blood sugar, it's exactly like I'm going to make you an example about dating. Okay, so let's say you really like this woman, and maybe she's in your office, or maybe she's your neighbor, right? So the first thing you say, like, you know what, I'm just gonna get her a flowers, nice surprise. I actually did that with one of my neighbor in London, and it went exactly like this. So I bought her some cookies, and I made like a nice card, and I put her in front of her front door because I didn't know when she was coming back. And then she texted me, like, "How was this surprise so amazing?" Blah blah. So I thought, like, oh, cool. I'm gonna do it again. So I did the same thing the next day, and she thought, this guy's a fucking creep, right? Basically, so I blew it up. So your cells, if they get so much insulin trying to push sugar inside, then they say, oh, no, I don't want you to come inside. So the body produces more insulin because the blood sugar cannot stay high. Guess what? So the only cells in the body that they never say no are fat cells. Fat cells, eventually some fat cells, they say no, but instead of blocking, they create a new fat cell. So there's more room. So it's even worse, right? So a lot of carbs all the time create this insulin resistance, that is same resistance as this woman will have to you if you try to give her a gift every single day. And when there is insulin resistance, the issue is every time we raise blood sugar by eating carbs or too much proteins, right? Or if someone is obese, even diet drinks, they do that. You're gonna store fat, and that body fat mass will also become inflamed because there is too much, and this inflammation is going to drag and cause more insulin resistance. So it's like a dog that's trying to bite his own tail. So that is insulin. It's normally super helpful, super useful, because it stops you from dying. Right? The people with type 1 diabetes, that they've been born without the capacity of making insulin, if they have a bag of Haribo, they very likely die. Right? Type 2 diabetes people, it's a different thing. They developed a condition where they can produce healthy insulin. The problem is their cell, they don't want it anymore. So insulin doesn't even work in lowering the blood sugar. So they can literally have, like, heart attacks from eating fish and chips, right? The type 2 diabetic. That's why they have insulin. They just jab it. So it's even more. But most people that they gain 10, 15, 20% body fat, depending on the size, is more weight, they very likely are running a marathon towards type 2 diabetes, and they're close to the end. Now, the man that already has type 2 diabetes reached the end, and then he calls me and he's like, what do I do now? When people that are on the way, they don't know, because when you do a blood test, they don't check your insulin. That's a very expensive test. It's like 100 pounds or something. They check blood glucose. When blood glucose is out of control, you very likely are one step to type 2 diabetes, and you're super insulin resistant already. So that's an issue, right? But there are symptoms you can check, right? And I can tell you 6 or 7. If you have 1 or 2, you're probably insulin resistant. So that's super simple. And one is like, you eat a meal, you feel like you always need dessert, or you always need something sweet after meals, or you always need something sweet in between meals. That's 2 symptoms of insulin resistance. If you eat a meal and straight after you don't feel energized, but actually you feel lethargic, that's a symptom of insulin resistance. If you have like unexplained sensation of falling asleep during the day, that's also a sign of insulin resistance. And then you have symptoms of low blood sugar, that is the step before of insulin resistance. And most people just fluctuate between dysglycemia, so low blood sugar, and insulin resistance. So these are, you get very angry and irritable in between meals, or if you skip meals. You get very dizzy if you skip meals, right? And when you eat again, you don't feel energized straight after, or you just have zero energy if you don't eat. That's another one. Like, if there's a lot of people that, like, if I don't eat, I just have no energy. So that's an issue. It means they're so used to burning sugar that they can't tap into their own fat. And me and you know that, like, if we start burning fat, we can probably run 150 marathons in a row with the fat we have. And we are decently lean, okay? So there's so much energy stored in our fat, but sometimes the body doesn't know to use it efficiently. So that was, between the brackets. So most people that they gain weight, they starting to develop some sort of insulin resistance because of their eating patterns. Some other people, they develop insulin resistance while eating very healthy, though. So not high carbs, because they have an extremely stressful lifestyle, to a point, and not just stressful meaning like, oh my God, I'm going to be broke, and I have a mafia trying to kill me. Not that sort of stress, just normal stress. And they don't do anything repetitively during the week or the day to relax. They're like, like the king of this would be meditation, or like, cold therapy, or something that really is so geared towards getting your mind to stop thinking, that it will activate the relaxation. But even stuff like, just regulate your stress hormone, cortisol is one. Walking a little bit in the morning, seeing the sunrise, that's just basically telling your brain, this is morning. In the morning, you produce cortisol that liberates fat to give you energy. That's simple, right? If you stay within the room with artificial light all the time, for your brain is daylight all the time. So you try to pump cortisol all the time, but the body doesn't have the resources to pump cortisol all the time. That's a problem I had personally. And you can use stuff very simple, like having a walk in the morning, and when there is sunset, even 10 minutes just looking at the sunlight. Now you start to sync to your circadian rhythms. Then you have breath work. Go.
Yeah, no. So I wanted to say, although meditation or cold therapy is the king for relaxation,
Yeah.
when we're actually talking about
They're both hard though. They're so hard. Yeah, that's the problem.
When we're actually talking about integrating practices for people so they can actually like, calm down.
Yeah.
Sometimes meditation is often we hear like, yeah, but I tried meditation and I
But I
couldn't
did
do
that.
it. Or cold therapy, what? So what what kind of practices would you suggest for the people that they're kind of far away from that?
Yeah. So my people, meditation, I honestly like, if someone said, shall I meditate? I say yes, but it was their initiative. Because if I tell them, they're just not going to do it. That's a problem. So I will take it as a ladder, one bit at a time. So the least painful, I think, is breath work, 5 minutes. Right, so not the whole breath work session. That's something very hard to stick to, but just a box breath that is like your inhale 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds, exhale 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds. Probably either in the morning, or just, if they go into a meeting at the desk, you can take like a tape, the one where you measure your muscle, you put it around your belly button, you tie it in, so you can feel your belly stretching, because most people, they just don't know. Like, if you breathe through here all the time, you got your adrenaline pump going all the time. If you breathe through your stomach, you can switch to your more relaxation part of the brain. And just something as simple as just breathe deeply through the nose and exhale few times before you turn on the computer, it's already like getting you into a better place. Then if you can take it in, inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4, that's better. And you start also to stretch your diaphragm, that, if you're at the desk, kind of like this is very tight, and it's actually a muscle, and it's important with posture and a lot of things. So you start with that, and then I will just probably challenge them and say, like, you done your box breath 4 4 4 4, try to have a hot shower, that turn it cold, and resist for 1 round. So you go 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. There was 16 seconds, stop. Very likely was 15, because people can quickly, so we round it. But and then, for 1 week, just try that 15 seconds under the cold water. Next week you do 2 rounds of box breath under the cold water, and you got 30 seconds. And then you build it up. This would be, yeah.
So you combine breath work with a cold shower at the same time.
Yeah, because one forces you to count, and when you're counting, the time passes a little bit quicker when you're under the cold water. So it's less threatening 1 round than 30 seconds. It's just 1 round, right? So you just need to really hold it for 1 round. And then generally, when people do 1 round, instead of doing the progression and say like, oh, I'm going to build every week to 2 minutes, they go straight to 2 minutes, because they feel like they can do it. And it just feels so good under the cold shower. And by the way, why cold shower? It's a weird thing. So imagine that, you have this left part of the brain that is relax, rest, and digest, and the right is our fight or flight. So cold induction is a stress. Interesting, right? And every stress in a small dose produce a positive change. It's called hormetic stress, and it's the same principle behind the vaccination. They give you a little bit of the drug so that your body can develop the anticorp and immune reaction necessary to fight the big evil when it comes. So cold and heat, but cold better, right? Because I'll leave this for a second. Cold, what does it do? It stimulates an immune reaction on the nervous system. Like, fuck, this is really cold, I need to protect myself. And it's such a shock for your brain, if it's cold enough, obviously, that basically, like, you could be thinking about all the debts you need to repay, but if I have a bucket of ice and I'll throw it on your head, the only thing you're thinking is it's cold. That's like, you're not going to think about your problem. It's like, it's freaking cold. So you already switch, and when you have the switch, it's much easier again to get into a calmer place. You notice if you do 2 minutes of cold shower or an ice bath, you feel high on drugs. You just like, and then he also induces thermogenesis, because it was really cold, so your body starts to produce heat in response. And heat generally is production of energy, so it makes you feel quite energized. And people that have chronic inflammation to a point of having like joint pain all the time, after a cold shower, and I had that too, for 1 hour you are without physical pains. And sometimes being in pain all day is really stressing. because you just can't think of anything. You're trying to just cope with all this pain, and it just doesn't go away. When cold shower, it can give you the 1 hour, 2 hour of like feeling good, and it's very, very helpful. It has like when you shut down the stress response, it has so many effects on your health, from be able to have a bit more willpower so you make better decisions, you sleep a bit better, your heart rate lowers a little bit, so your blood pressure lowers a little bit. Now there's some studies that they say that if you do 2 to 3 minutes cold shower every day, some fat will turn from white into brown. That is basically meaning that some fat, instead of just storing, it actually becomes filled with mitochondria and it burns more fat. So long run, you'll get leaner by doing that. I'm doing it every day. I don't know, I'm not getting leaner, but it's just it's not, so that's not enough. Basically, that's not enough. But people that are exposed to cold all the time, like Eskimo or people that do cold induction, they generate naturally more heat. So they have a higher metabolic rate, meaning that they can eat more food and stay at the same weight, basically, because of this transition from white to brown fat. So there's many benefits from one single thing. Generally, I try to recommend something that maybe it's painful, but if one thing does 5 good things, then I likely recommend that, because it's just more bang for bucks. And fasting, tell me.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, it allows, I think one thing, really important thing we have to understand as coaches is, yeah, you've got your bodybuilding crowd that like can just,
follow whatever. And yeah.
Exactly. 100 things at once. But then you have the real human beings that you're working with. And
yeah,
although a cold shower is discomfort,
yeah,
for someone that, one of the things we want to do as coaches is make our clients feel like they're winning.
yeah,
And
exactly.
the
Little
amount
wins,
of-
little wins, little wins. It's all about that. Yeah.
Yeah, the amount of winner effect you get from a cold shower, like
It's big. It is big. Yes. It's uncomfortable, but I've done it, so I can be hungry today because I did this. I ate that live frog in the first thing in the morning. Yeah, that is true. I think it really builds character. If you take cold shower, then you're a bit more badass. If you do an ice bath, you're pretty badass.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of I think people get uncomfortable when they're living in their comfort zone. So doing something intentional to get out of your comfort zone, like a cold shower,
Yeah.
you give yourself a pat on the back.
That's why it's so hard to get people to do stretching, because it's got such a little bang for buck. Like from like cold shower, you do a cold shower, you feel super amazing straight after. You do stretching, you don't feel super amazing straight after, and you really need to do it for extended weeks to actually feel this mobility effect. That's why it's so hard to get people to do it, isn't it?
Stretching, yeah. Well, when it comes to mobility, I think I'm getting better at encouraging people to do that, simply because
you injure yourself too many times, basically, same as me. As me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you look at the old time bodybuilders as well, they would do bodybuilding as an addition to their physical practices. The guy I was talking to on the last podcast, Ray, by the way, if you ever want physical therapy, this guy is like really clever. And
all right, I maybe need to speak to him.
We're talking about basically general physical preparedness. So the Russians are the absolute beasts, understanding strength and conditioning, but they would have a general physical preparedness regime for all their athletes, and it would be things like, can you do a forward roll?
No, I read in Ross Edge's book, he's saying that he's going to Russia to this weird gym, and it's like, fucking hell, they get me to run and jump and pull and roll, and like I felt like it's cool. Basically.
But it's so important because these are life skills, and the thing is, in bodybuilding, we're training these kind of fixed ranges of motion with controlled time under tension.
Yeah.
But then if you think about the actual elasticity of your joints, your tendons, your fascia, that's this kind of forward roll stuff. Can you move dynamically? Can you move explosively?
Yeah. Most of us can't. Basically, yeah.
Can you do a push-up like this? Not just
no, without feeling.
Yeah, and bringing some of these qualities into your fitness so that you don't break and snap, basically.
Yeah.
But anyway, I can't remember how I got onto that. Yeah. So anyway, let's backtrack. Where were we before that?
No, I was saying that, like, just we were talking, we were all talking, we started talking about intermittent fasting, right? And why do I like it? And then I basically, the short answer was, I like it because it's a shortcut to reverse insulin sensitivity. Okay.
Yeah.
And why is the shortcut to reverse insulin sensitivity? It's actually very simple. If you don't eat anything for 16 hours, your body will activate its own mechanism to stabilize blood sugar. And that blood sugar will never get high because you're not eating anything. So like you genuinely cannot get too high blood sugar from your own reserve, because your body's just not going to do it. It's clever enough. When if you eat it, your body just getting all this energy and the blood sugar will get up pretty much. And eating carbs or eating sugars or eating crap, it's not the only way to become insulin resistant. Another way to becoming insulin resistant is adding constant level of stress and not learning how to shut down, right? So one thing that I said to lower stress, very simple, is walk and catch the morning sunlight, right? That's very powerful. Another one is taking cold shower, possibly combining breath. So cold shower is one thing. Breathing through the nose, it activates either your fight or flight response. If I go, that's hyping up, or if I go, now I'm actually calming down. So mixing both is usually a good idea, even though most people, they don't need to hype themselves up. They're already hyped enough from Facebook notification or stuff. It kind of gives you hype anyway. And another, so we got the cold shower, we got the lighting, we got the breath, and then we can go a little bit into other things, like this is super cheap and it works like a charm, and is Epsom salt foot bath. Like Epsom salt is magnesium flakes, right? You can buy 5 kilos for $10. So it's pretty good. You can't eat them, so that's a problem. Otherwise, you just buy magnesium supplements. But you make, like, take a couple of scoops and you put it into like a bowl and you stick your feet in it. In 1 hour, you're ready to go to bed. Like, it just relaxes you so much, and it's insane. That's something that people should do once or twice a week, just to literally collapse. Because what's the problem? If your stress response is too high all the time, then when you actually need the stress response to be near zero, that is when you're sleeping, then you don't. And if you are hyped up, you suppress your melatonin production, you also have a problem falling asleep. And what I see with people is the biggest limiting factor to losing weight, it's not just food and movement. Food and movement are important, but then you really need as well digestion, proper digestion, because if you don't poop, you're not going to lose weight, period. And men is a bit more like, if a man is constipated, he's probably not drinking enough water, he's very stressed, he's smoking as well, and his diet is trashed. Men usually have much more the other problem. They actually, when they take too much fiber, they shit themselves, or they have, like, IBS, inflammatory bowel disease, all these sort of things that are stress related issues, but they're more on the, I'm actually not absorbing enough and I'm too inflamed. When women tend to get totally blocked. And the other thing, if you're not sleeping well, you're not going to lose weight. That's another. So you need to fix your digestion, your stress, and your sleep to actually get into a plan that allows you to achieve your results. And you can do it step by step. But you'll notice, if you fix the stress, then you fix the sleep. It goes hand in hand, right? And then if you fix the sleep, very likely you improve at least your digestion. And then you can do a few things with functional eating pattern or supplements, and you go back to a normal state. Once you are in a normal state, then this calorie thing applies. So intermittent fasting, surely it helps you as well with dropping a bunch of breakfast calories. You can optimize that by taking people into a state of ketosis, not a permanent ketosis that is, like just a never carbs. But if you fast 16 hours and the first meal of the day is a low carb meal with medium protein, high fat, very likely by the time they digest that, their fast becomes 19 hours. And in 19 hours, you start to produce ketones and use your own fat. So the magic thing that happens is like, you're not hungry anymore. You're not craving things anymore, and your mind starts to become sharp. And then I like to reward, like linking. Let's link a reward, that is dinner with carbs, with a positive habit, that is walking or physical activity. So did you do it? I'm not even going in like do it before dinner, so you activate the GLUT4 and you know, you don't need insulin and you suck in the muscle too. That's too much. If you did some movement during the day, then have some carbs at dinner with the family, right? Now, on a bodybuilding point of view, probably intermittent fasting, high fat, medium protein, lunch, then another protein fat snack, and carbs with dinner, with pre-dinner training, that will get you pretty shredded, I think, because you're really optimizing the two mechanisms. One is the AMPK. So AMPK is, we have two pumps. One pump burns fat and keeps us alive and running, and that's called AMPK. It's an enzyme. And the other one is called mTOR, and it's like growth, repair, and rest. So you can, if you fast, it's very simple to feel. You wake up, you're not firing AMPK a lot, but around 10 a.m., you're going to be really hungry. If you pass that 10 a.m., you're not hungry anymore. You got a shit of energy ready to go. So there you have your AMPK firing, your ketones are starting to get produced, and you use your own fat as source of fuel. And you really feel great. And you feel, that's an extra stress though, because what's happening is that if you don't have proteins or carbs, your blood glucose drops a little bit. Now your body perceives this as a stress, like that's a famine, right? We are starving, we need to hunt something. So it starts to produce adrenaline and noradrenaline and cortisol. And those three, they want your blood sugar to go up. So they start to pull sugar from muscle and liver. If not, they start to dismantle muscle to raise your blood sugar a little bit. So technically you have a burst of energy from stress hormone. So someone that's super stressed, maybe fasting is actually not a very good idea. You need to do it in a,
Stop you.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we're going in too much into science world.
We're going too much. Sorry, I thought we were.
For our listeners, it's good. No, it's really, really good. But one
No,
thing
no,
I
no,
wanted
no,
to ask you was, one thing I wanted. Maybe that's bad. Maybe that's bad interviewership. Maybe I should let you go on. But who knows?
No, go, because I think I was actually, you know, just ranting too much about biological functions.
Yeah. Think science, speak client.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a classic one. But anyway, what I want to ask you, which is literally going
Yeah,
right.
your clients are much more geeky than mine, by the way. Yeah, for sure. Mine, they don't even know what's a protein.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. My clients.
That's the issue. Like, what is protein? Yeah.
So I'm going to go right back. There's a question I wanted to ask you right at the start of the podcast, and then what we're going to do is we're basically going to find out. Then we'll just find out. I'll ask you a couple of questions because we're going. I think we could go on to speak for hours, man. We'll have to do it. We're going to have to do a part two.
Don't worry. Like the geeky part too. Tell me.
Yeah. So basically, what I wanted to ask was, I really, really like your thing about. I mean, it's such a basic thing, but it's super intimate to share, right? Which is the asking, basically seeing your client's diary, because that's a level of accountability. For example, I had a client once, and he was following his macros, doing really, really well, and losing loads of weight because he was creating a caloric deficit. And then it came to the point where the weight loss stopped, and I asked to see my fitness pal, and then I realized it was like a real privacy invasion into his life, and he really hesitated to show me, but of course, you know, with those insulin spikes, because he was eating sweets all day, basically.
Yeah.
And but anyway, the point being that I can imagine that's a great thing to ask. You know, show me your diary, the type of clients that you're working with. But how do you have that? Would you have that conversation with an existing client that you haven't been working with, that you've been working with for a while? How would you have that conversation?